You can print what? Written by Susan Lennox. Introduction. An industrial designer is hard at work creating a digital plan for a shoe you won't find in any store. She peers at the image on her monitor while using a special computer program to modify the shoe's shape and size. When she's satisfied with her work, she hits the print command. The printer at the other end of the room springs into action, whirring and humming. But it isn't printing just a picture of the shoe. It's creating an actual shoe. Welcome to the world of three-dimensional, 3D, printing, the latest technology for making models or prototypes of almost anything imaginable. What comes out of a 3D printer is quite different from what comes out of a conventional computer printer. However, both types of printers use the same concept, layering, to make their final product. From stamps to lasers. When most people think of printing, they imagine seeing text or images on smooth surfaces such as paper or cloth. The markings are made by applying a layer of ink onto the surface, either by hand or machine. Throughout history, a variety of printing techniques have been used to apply the ink. About 2,000 years ago, people in Eastern Asia used a process known as xylography, or woodblock printing. First, they drew an image on a block of wood. Next, they carved out the areas around the image. Then, they coated the raised image that remained with ink and pressed it onto a flat surface. When they lifted the block, a thin layer of ink in the shape of the raised image appeared. If you've ever used an ink stamp and stamp pad, you've used xylography. And you probably know that it would take a long time to fill just one page with multiple stamped images. This problem was solved with the invention of the printing press in 1450. Johannes Gutenberg, a German blacksmith, invented the printing press, a machine that allowed the first mass production of printed books. Instead of using one stamp at a time, many stamps, or pieces of type, were arranged in a tray. Then, a piece of paper was pressed against the tray. In just one motion, a layer of inked type was pressed onto the entire page. This process made it much easier to produce multiple copies of the same page. Over hundreds of years, printing processes evolved. One technique, called lithography, uses water and oil. Images are transferred to book pages on a lithographic press. The printed surface contains both the image and background areas on one level printing plate. The printing area is treated so that the image to be printed attracts oil-based inks. Since oil and water don't mix, the non-printed areas repel the inks. The lithographic process was devised in 1796 and is still used today to print many magazines and books. In the 1950s, the first high-speed printer was invented for use with a computer called UNIVAC, which stored data onto spools of magnetic tape. A modified typewriter was connected to print out the information from the tape. This computerized typewriter was able to print words and numbers much faster than any person possibly could. When desktop computers became popular in the 1980s, inkjet printers made it possible for people to print digital images right at their desks. Data sent from the computer tells the printer which shapes it needs to print. The printer reads the data and makes those shapes by first heating a cartridge filled with ink. As the ink warms, pressure inside the cartridge rises. Then, the ink shoots out of the cartridge through a nozzle, or jet, and forms layers on the paper. Laser printing technology was developed during the 1970s, but did not become available for personal use until 1984. Laser printers use a process similar to lithography, but with a twist. Instead of coating the printing surface with oil, this printing process uses lasers to zap an electrically charged image onto the paper. Dry ink particles pass over the paper and are attracted to the electrically charged image. A roller presses the particles to the paper, and a printed page appears. 2D to 3D. In 1984, Charles Hall invented a process called stereolithography, or what we now call 3D printing. Hall worked as a design engineer. He often grew frustrated with the weeks and months it took to develop, test, and redesign prototype plastic parts. He set out to solve this problem by finding a quicker way to make prototypes. Hall soon realized that he could use a layering process to create three-dimensional objects. 3D printing was born. Stereolithography uses inkjet and laser printer technology to create three-dimensional objects instead of flat, two-dimensional images. First, an image is created and stored as data using computer software. Then, the data file is sent to a 3D printer. The printer uses the file as a kind of roadmap that tells the printhead where to go. The printhead is a tiny box with a nozzle, or jet, attached to it. It is suspended from a grid of metal bars that run along and across a print bed, the platform on which the object will be made. The printhead moves back and forth and side to side above the print bed. As it moves, a thin stream of material, such as plastic, is propelled out of the printhead nozzle and onto the print bed. According to the information sent from the computer image file, the material is stacked in microlayers as the print bed moves up and down. As each layer is deposited, a laser heats and bonds the new layer to the one beneath it. Bit by bit, layer by layer, a three-dimensional prototype of the image on the computer monitor rises from the print bed. Who's who in printing technology? 1040 AD, approximate. Bi Sheng, a Chinese printer, invents the world's first known movable type technology using clay characters. 1450. Johannes Gutenberg, a German blacksmith, invents the printing press, which allows the first mass production of printed books. 1796. Alois Zanefelder, a German author and actor, invents lithography as a cheap way to print his plays. 1800. Lord Stanhope, a British scientist, builds the first cast iron printing press. 1846. Richard Hoe, an American inventor, invents the cylinder press. It can print 8,000 sheets an hour. 1886. Ottmar Mergenthaler, a German-born American inventor, invents the linotype machine. This is the first device that can make a printing press arrange complete lines of type. 1938. Chester Carlson, an American physicist and attorney, invents electrophotography, also known as Xerox. 1953. Remington Rand, an American business machine manufacturer, creates the first high-speed printer for the UNIVAC computer. 1976. Gary Starkweather, an American engineer, develops the first commercially used laser printer. 1984. Charles Hull, an American design engineer, develops and patents stereolithography, the process known as 3D printing. A new technology takes off. By early in the 21st century, stereolithography became the preferred method for creating prototype parts used in industry and manufacturing. A prototype could be designed, produced, and tested in a matter of hours or days, rather than weeks or months. Most early 3D prototypes were made of plastic. As the technology improved, other kinds of materials, such as ceramics and metals, were also used to make objects. Being able to use a variety of materials expanded the possibilities for 3D printing. People from different fields saw this technology as a way to create customized items in a much shorter time. Designers could craft one-of-a-kind pieces of jewelry. Artists could create unique, three-dimensional sculptures. And they could do it affordably, since 3D printing uses only as much material as is needed. 3D printing is for the birds. The ability to create customized 3D objects affordably has led to some amazing applications. When an engineer visited a wildlife rehabilitation center, he was struck by the plight of a bald eagle named Beauty. A hunter had shot off Beauty's top beak, making it impossible for her to hunt, eat, or preen herself. The engineer believed he had a 3D solution to Beauty's problem. Working from an X-ray of Beauty's head, the engineer was able to design a plastic replica of Beauty's original beak on his computer. He then used a 3D printer to create the replica beak. Beauty had surgery to permanently attach the new beak, and she can now drink, eat, and clean herself like a normal eagle. Have a heart or a liver. Engineers and scientists are developing a way to create real human organs using the layering technique to fuse living cells and form human tissue. A gel containing special cells taken from a patient's body is layered to form the correct shape, then incubated for a time to let the cells mature and bond to each other. Scientists have made ears, lungs, and livers using this technique. Researchers are now working on creating a human heart made of both natural tissue and artificial materials. People who receive 3D organs may avoid the usual problem faced by transplant patients: rejection of the new organ. Whenever a foreign object is introduced into the body, the immune system treats it as a threat and attacks it. Transplant patients must take special medicine after surgery so their immune system doesn't destroy the transplanted organ. This medicine may also make patients more prone to infection. However, if the organ is made from the patient's own cells, rejection is less likely to occur. Patients may not have to take as much medicine, and they heal and recover more quickly with fewer complications. A home like no other. Some 3D engineers have taken this technology to new heights, literally. A team of architects in Amsterdam is using a giant, portable version of a 3D printer to build a 3-story house out of plastic. The machine creates interlocking bricks from layers of melted plastic that will be assembled into 13 rooms. Construction will take 3 years, a long time by house-building standards. The team hopes this experiment will open the door to new ways of thinking about home construction, using manufacturing processes such as 3D printing. The future. The future of 3D printing holds endless possibilities. This amazing technology allows people to customize all sorts of products, from plastic dental braces to apartment-sized furniture to buildings. As the technology continues to evolve, 3D printers may be used in rather unusual situations, such as long-term space missions. With a 3D printer on board their spacecraft, astronauts would be able to manufacture replacement parts should old parts break down, or design and create new devices to help them live in space. This innovative technology could help humans survive as they explore strange, new worlds.